1. I work at a store of a big fast food chain to pay for my university. Our staff changes frequently because a lot of students and migrants working at our place, so you don't get to know each other very well. Everybody has their own social life, and it's very, very rare for co-workers to establish friendships outside working hours. Still, you know the people on your shift, and the night shift has particularly few workers. One of my co-workers, Jasir, started to get interested in me, not that I noticed. I am young and dumb, like being friendly and important for later, have a hard time saying no. In December 2019, our store threw a Christmas party at a pub. I went and had a great time, but I also made plans for later that night. Because of that, I wanted to leave early, which made Jasir also want to leave early, despite the fact that he neither needed nor planned it beforehand, which made me uncomfortable. Unfortunately, he did not know how to get to the train station, and I did. I couldn't say no, and just let him tag along. When we arrived at the train station, it came to light that there was no train he could take to get home. None. He did not check beforehand, he did not ask me, he just wanted to tag along with me. Super uncomfortable. Instead of taking the train to the main station, he got into my train and only got out when I insisted he changed trains at another big station. But oh boy. In January 2020, Jasir asked me out for coffee and I agreed. I thought, he just wants friends, he doesn't have any, and can only rely on his co-workers. If something happens, I can just nope out, and so I went. First, it was okay-ish. We mostly talked about work-related stuff because we don't share any hobbies. We're not the same age, and we don't have the same mother tongue. Jasir didn't like talking about work and nothing more. He started talking about how different I was from other co-workers, how nice of a person I am, and how good my charisma is. He then asked if we could get to know each other better. I genuinely didn't want to and still don't. Jasir is not my type. Neither as a person nor from his looks, especially his looks, even if I sound superficial. While I am in my early 20s, Jasir is at least in his early 30s. I have no problem with age gaps, a story for another time, but I am not attracted to men that dress like teenagers. Instead of telling Jasir a straight no, I told him I was not interested in having a boyfriend. He didn't take that seriously, and told me I would change my mind. I told him I wouldn't. He, again, was not really on board with that opinion, so I elaborated my opinion 3 times in German, and 1 time in English to get it very clear. He always changes to English if he does not get something or thinks he misunderstood, even if he heard it correctly and just does not like it. I mean, obviously my opinion is going to change if I explain it in English rather than German. We left the conversation with him still not convinced, and me being really not interested in a second meeting. He quit soon after, and I foolishly assumed I was free. But whenever he came to my workplace to place an order, he would ask me out to eat something, and every time I would postpone whatever I said the last time. Because of finals, because of travel, because of anything I could get my hands on. Then came COVID-19. That hit Germany in March, and I didn't see him anymore. I blocked him on social media in April, and hoped that was the last thing to happen, but oh boy, that was not the case. Today I finished my shift at 3 a.m. and left with my female and very Asian co-worker, Wei, to catch the next train. We take different trains, so we decided to wait in the main lobby until I need to go to my platform. In that time, Jasir appeared. He just finished his shift and was on his way home. Wei asked him which train he needed to get, and he said he was walking home. While the conversation went on, I got closer to Wei to get some space between me and Jasir. Wei did not grasp how uncomfortable I was in this situation, and she just walked away. What did Jasir do? He placed himself between me and Wei, right in my line of vision. Every fiber in my body felt how he barged into my personal space. I decided I could not take a private conversation with him and said, "Oh, look, I need to go to my platform," to end it, but Jasir followed me. Through the main lobby, through the train station, into the elevator and into the train. I was internally screaming and walked through the train until I saw another passenger. I sat down in the row of seats next to me and Jasir followed. As if every bit of luck had just left me, the other passenger moved seats and went away, so I was back alone. Jasir talked, and I showed clear signs of not wanting to continue the conversation. I hoped he would leave before the train departed, but he didn't. Mind you, the train goes in the opposite direction of his house and is 1 hour walking distance to my workplace. There's no way in hell this man could get anything out of taking the train except following me and continuing the conversation. I was freaked out, and told him in English he was acting very weird. Maybe I should have used a different word, but English is not my first language, and at that point I only thought about escaping. I could not let him see my station, or he could easily find my home. I don't live rural, but at 3 a.m. there is nobody on the streets, so him following me home was terrifying. I thought about getting off a station earlier, but then I would need to get a cab, for which I did not have cash on me. Or I needed to walk the rest, and he could still follow. I decided to get up at the next station, let him get out of the train first, and then stay inside while the doors close. It fortunately worked, but only after telling him clearly this was not my station. I would not get out, and he would not get back in. I even held my hand out to stop him from coming back. He stayed outside after the conductor shouted at us to let the door close. So let's rewind. He is way older than me. He does not get the concept of me not wanting to be in a relationship with him. Whenever he does not like an answer, he switches to English because it might just be a misunderstanding. He followed me 2 times into my train and almost home, without even thinking about how creepy that behavior is. So, Jasir, let's not meet again. 2. My uncle lives in Russia for more than 2 decades. From time to time, I used to travel there for holidays since early childhood. He lived in a rural area not too far from the city of Moscow. He held a small farm, cows, pigs, chickens, and such. I was 19 when I went to Uncle for the summer break. Since I was old enough to help him around the place and I had a driving license, Uncle asked me to get into a truck and take hay back to a farm from the plot of land that he used to grow and get ready hay for winter. He had to keep feeding 2 cows, and without hay it'd be almost impossible to keep cattle in the winter. I'd have to make a few trips to drive all stacks of hay from the plot to home, but as a motivation my uncle promised to let me borrow his car for a night out with friends. We made a deal, and the first trip came and went without any incidents. It wasn't a big distance between the plot and farm. It would be maybe 25 to 27 kilometers maybe. But loading and unloading the truck took a long time, so by the time the second trip was done, it was already well past sunset. I was driving a truck back to the farm, full of another load of hay, when suddenly, on the road appeared a man. He was smiling and holding up a 1,000 ruble bill in hopes of catching a ride. You ever get the feeling when something is out of place but you can't quite put your finger on it? I had that weird feeling and decided to play safe and fair. I didn't stop and continued my journey back to the farm of my uncle. I felt a bit guilty for leaving the man there, but in my defense, I was a 19-year-old girl driving a car that wasn't mine, loaded with tons of hay, which cost quite a bit of money. I didn't want to risk not only getting hijacked, but also maybe something worse. With such thought, I calmed my conscience, and in a few minutes forgot the encounter entirely. Not much after, I heard a weird noise coming from the backside of the truck. Something was hitting against the truck bed door, and I got scared that I might have thrown all the hay without knowing it. I stopped the car and got out, looked back, checked the door, latches, crawled under, but everything seemed fine. I shrugged and returned back to the cabin. I was about to open the door and get inside when I saw that old man sitting in the cabin of the truck, smiling at me, and holding out the 1,000 ruble bill. I didn't even hear how he opened and closed the doors. I almost fell back from sheer shock. How? When? Why? I had thousands of questions lining up in my head. How did this dude get in here? How did he catch up? Why was he sitting in my uncle's effing truck? I yelled at him to get out of the truck, but the old man was just sitting there smiling and holding out that damn bill. I yelled at him, threatened, nothing. And standing there outside of my truck, holding the doorknob of the driver's side, I realized that I'm scared to death of this man. Luckily for me, I saw the lights of another truck coming my way. I leaned out all the way, holding myself with the doorknob, and started waving my hand. While the truck was getting closer, I was thinking to myself that I'd give this creepy old fart the ride of his life and shove that bill far up his guts. The truck was almost here, and I decided to look into the cabin of my truck, and saw him now scooted over to the driver's seat, face stuck in the window and staring at me. I fell off and landed on my ass from fright. Then I heard the doors of my truck open from the passenger side and scrambled to my feet. Dude walked over. He was still smiling and holding out the bill. Only then I noticed what he held in the other hand, a small kitchen hatchet. This wasn't fun and games anymore. I backed away, and in just a moment the truck arrived and stopped right beside me. And the man that stopped before me turned and dashed into the forest away from the road. The driver of the other truck looked over and asked what was wrong. I just yelled, "There's a man with a 1,000 ruble bill and a kitchen hatchet here." Dude didn't even get out. He locked his doors and ordered me to do the same. Jumping back into my truck, I locked the doors and waited for a while with another driver. What we were waiting for, I don't know. Maybe to see him again, wait and see if he turned up again? 10 minutes went, and the driver of the truck decided it was safe enough to get out of the cars. We got out, shook hands, and lit cigarettes. I told him what happened from the beginning, while I smoked like crazy. The driver, Ilya, later found out, was just nodding along and looking around, seemingly looking for some movement from the side of the forest. Butting cigarettes, he advised me to never stop the car no matter what, and especially if going at night. He was a long-haul driver and seemingly speaking from experience, so I agreed and bid goodbye. We got into our own separate trucks and parted ways. When I got to the farm, I informed my aunt about what happened, and as I expected, she started freaking out. Called my uncle immediately, explained everything, and soon enough, the neighbor boy that was helping all day unloading the truck there in the farm took the keys and drove back to my uncle himself. And to be honest, I was happy that he relieved me of that duty. I was thinking all night about how that guy caught up with me. I wasn't speeding, but wasn't crawling either. My only guess was that he ran after my truck and somehow jumped to the back door. He held up for a while and then started to make noises, so I'd stop and get out to investigate, which is exactly what happened. Why was he doing all this, I can only guess. I never met that man again, and to this day I have no idea what it was all about, or what would have happened if some random driver hadn't turned up in the right place at the right time. Thankfully, I didn't have a chance to find out. Thank you, Ilya, for amazing timing, and as for the old man with his stupid bill and hatchet, let's never meet again. 3. Last May, my husband, myself, and our 2 small boys left our little farm in the country and moved into a posh boutique-style urban apartment building. My husband had recently received a sizable raise after many years with his current company, and we wanted to be closer to his office and to mine. We chose this particular building as it was brand new and offered an array of shopping, eating, and outdoor amenities without ever having to leave the building or surrounding shopping center. We quickly settled in and started enjoying the new change of pace. At first, everything was fine. About 3 months into our lease, we noticed that the front office completely changed staff. We were upset about the change because 2 of the receptionists had been personal friends of ours. We asked them why everyone had been let go, but they said they didn't know why. Apparently corporate had just decided they wanted a change. We were sad to see our friends go, especially our 2- and 3-year-old boys, who had grown quite fond of their daily visit to the office for milk and cookies. We also noticed that the new staff was mainly comprised of much younger, attractive women. We assumed then that the management company intended to appeal to the college crowd and singles. We were slightly annoyed with the general lack of experience in customer service, but thought that it wasn't the end of the world and moved on. Then weird stuff started happening. One morning I walked into the living room to find our patio door wide open. It seemed odd, because we triple lock it to keep the children from accessing the patio unsupervised. I locked the door, and then accused my husband of being absent-minded and leaving it open. He swore that he hadn't touched the door or the locks in days, and I let it go, but made a mental note to start checking it every night before bed just in case. About 2 weeks later, I awoke to the sound of my oldest boy screaming for me somewhere outside of the apartment. When I found him, he was wandering the hallway outside, soaked in urine and utterly terrified. At the time, we were absolutely baffled at how he managed to unlock 2 locks and a childproof lock cover. When we asked him what happened, he said that a monster was in his room looking at him, and he didn't want to move, so he peed in the bed. Honestly, I was so happy he was safe that I just chalked it up to kid imagination and my husband not locking the door properly again. It never crossed my mind that someone had potentially been inside the apartment and let him out. They would have had to have opened the door from the outside, and only we have a key. Weird stuff like that kept happening for several more months, and we kept finding reasonable excuses that explained everything away. Then, one afternoon, I got a phone call from the office of our apartment. We had recently installed a Ring doorbell to alert us when someone was at the door. It was mostly an attempt to prevent another runaway toddler. The woman from the office asked me if our door camera was operational or just put there to make people think that we had security. I informed her it was 100% functional, and that we had installed video surveillance in our nursery and the adjoining room to keep the kids safe. She then asked me a really odd question. She wanted to know if I would add her to our security devices so that she could view our Ring footage. Of course, I politely told her that was not going to happen. I asked her why she wanted it, but never got a clear answer. I told my husband about the call later that night, and he agreed that we should make an effort to always keep the Ring charged and recording to the cloud. We did, and things seemed fine. For a while. Over the course of the lease, the doors have continued to occasionally, magically come unlocked and open. Even locks that the kids can't reach, and it's always overnight, or we notice them when we get home from work. About 2 months ago, things started to go missing from the apartment. At first it was little things like a new tube of Dior mascara, or a $20 bill left on the kitchen island. My husband and I thought it might be a baby storing them somewhere like treasures. He sometimes does that with my husband's golf balls, so it wasn't too far-fetched. Then bigger, more expensive items started to disappear. Our iPad vanished from my nightstand. A leather jacket with a designer label no longer hung from its hanger on my side of the closet. A bra still with tags was absent from one of my dresser drawers. And a full bottle of prescription painkillers was nowhere to be found. So was half a bottle of my anxiety meds. We now began to suspect that something really weird was happening in our apartment, but had no proof. The nursery and bathroom cameras didn't show anything during the day, and we started making our boys sleep in bed with us at night, the bedroom door locked from the inside. I could swear that I woke up in the middle of the night once to a slight thudding noise, and saw the shadows of movement on the other side of the door. But I fell back asleep before I could register what was happening. I take a Tylenol 3 most nights before bed, so while I do wake up at the slightest noise, staying awake is a battle of its own. This is our last month at these apartments. In 2 weeks we will be moving into our own home. 2 weeks ago I obtained a money order for the last month's rent. It was a large money order and had to be halved in 2. As always, I brought it home, along with the receipt, and placed them in the plastic magnet sleeve attached to the freezer that also housed our monthly invoice. Now, I don't know how to fill out a money order. I know how stupid that is, but I never worried about it since my husband usually fills them out and pays our rent. It's not that I can't learn, but I'm lazy and don't mind letting him do it. That means that the money order in the rent sleeve was blank, and guess what? It too went missing. A novice mistake, I know, but thank God for online banking. One call to our bank and an investigation had begun. We waited with unease until this afternoon when a representative from the company that had issued the money order gave us a call. The call was to inform us that the order had been cashed, and that the thief was identified. Sure enough, it was one of the receptionists in our building, the same young woman who had called to ask about our new security devices. She had been using the spare maintenance key to come inside our apartment whenever she wants. Tomorrow I will take this information to the building's manager. At the moment we aren't pressing charges as long as our conditions are met. Hopefully this young lady gets help because we don't think she's malicious, just a thief and a grade A creeper. Don't worry, tonight will be our last night here. As far as her watching my children's sleep goes, I can't say that I will be comfortable having them sleep away from me for a good long while. I feel terrible for not believing my son. I tear up just thinking about how scared he really must have been. The new house will get a full security system with every bell and whistle. We still aren't sure how she got past the Ring camera without being seen, but my husband is dead set on figuring it out. To the seriously weird receptionist who's been entering our apartment at night, and while we're at work, you better hope we don't meet again. Update. When we got to the office this morning, the manager greeted us, apologized about 20 times, and informed us that said receptionist had been let go when she arrived on the property this morning. We made sure that he understood the gravity of the situation, especially concerning our children's safety, and the fact that the building is mostly comprised of families and retirees. We came to an agreement not to pursue legal action against the company as long as we could leave today with our deposit in hand and never hear from them again. We also made him promise to send out a PSA to other residents explaining portions of the situation in case she has been doing this to other people. Which I'd bet money she has. We are currently throwing our belongings in boxes and laundry baskets, awaiting family and friends coming to help us move out. My husband and I have decided not to pursue our missing property. However, we will be filing charges for the theft of the money order. We think she was leaving the patio doors unlocked because we have a first-floor apartment with a sunroom, and she was unlocking them at night when we charged the Ring, so she could let herself in during the day via the patio. It explains why we never got her on camera, and why she would be so bold as to come in at night when we were home asleep. My guess is that the night our son got out, she has snuck in to unlock the back doors and saw him awake. She must have waited until he was still awake for a while, and then ran back out the front door, forgetting to completely shut and lock it. When he finally felt safe enough to get out of bed, he saw the lights from the hall and followed them, wanting to be out of the dark where he saw the monster. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, Episode 500, which I decided just to do a regular old video for. I'll be honest with you, I started recording that there, and it wasn't until I checked. What am I doing? Oh, 500. I thought it was at least 2 away. I forget things sometimes. Although I did have an audience watching me, judging me as I recorded, hearing me say lots of naughty words. But they seem to enjoy the naughty words, so, you can't grumble too much. Usually when I reach a milestone like this, I'd celebrate with some takeout. But, takeout. Here's the thing, I feel guilty for not ordering takeaway food. But for me, when I order regular food like groceries, there is a whole process that takes me about an hour before I'm done. I stand with a pack of wipes, or if I don't have wipes, I'll use like a spray and a cloth. And everything gets wiped down, at least stuff with packaging. The fresh stuff, obviously, that just gets put to the side and that gets washed before you use it like it would do anyway. And stuff I'm not going to be using for a few days will just get put away because it'll be fine by the time I get to it. So I feel guilty for not ordering takeaway food because I can't really do that with takeaway food. Plus, you don't know if somebody working in a restaurant's sick or not. Although, it should be added, I've looked into it. Apparently nobody's gotten sick off this from eating, so that's a good sign. I'm just being paranoid, Freezer. I might get over it and see if my local place is still open. I'll get them to deliver it, even though it's only 30 seconds down the hill. But I'll get them to deliver it, or I might go to... Well, I might go to my favourite place if they're open. I'm not sure if they're still open right now. And get a chow mein. Or a king prawn curry. I usually make my own Chinese type curries. I tend to go Chinese if I'm getting takeout. Because my favourite Indian place closed down years ago and I've not found another one I liked as much since. I'm just rambling and making myself hungry. Okay, I'm going to go and continue thinking about food, and so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.